Yes. What's happening, everybody? Happy Wednesday night to you. It is fight week, like it has been for the last few, like it will be for the next few, all the way up until UFC 300. But this Saturday, we have Tuivasa versus Marcin Tybura as the main event for UFC Vegas 88. 13 fights on this card, 13 opportunities to stack cash tickets like flapjacks. And I've got all the numbers at my disposal. I'm ready to answer your questions. If you want to take a look at that over-under template for these fights and see if you like over 1.5s or if you like fight doesn't go to decisions, or we could take a look at all that data. I've even got full templates set up for about half of these fights in terms of the betting template, in terms of significant strikes, takedown props, fantasy score props. I've got it all. I'm ready to answer your questions, you guys. So pop them in the chat. Let me know what it is that you need to know, and we'll get all these numbers up here on the screen for you guys and answer your questions. As of right now, I think I've only got 4 bets so far, and I'm leaving in the morning for Florida, so I'm going to need to get more bets in before I leave, so that I have a decent amount of action on this card, because I won't be getting back until Sunday. So I definitely need to finish up my work for the week. So we're going to have to do this together, you guys. So let me know what it is that you need to know, and I'll answer your questions for you tonight. Let's see what's going on with you guys in the chat. But before we do that, let me share the screen with you. This is what I've got here. I've got the over 2.5 rounds for McKenna versus Amarim. That is at minus 185 for 1 unit. Reason I played that is that both of these ladies have been going to decision quite a bit, and I think that they're both very good fighters. I don't think either one is going to finish the other. So I took a little shot, laid a little bit of juice here to try to win a little over a half unit. Here at minus 185, you can see that this is actually a trifecta bet. It's a 6-fight sample size, so it's not something we go running to the window for when we see a trifecta bet in that small of a sample size. But at minus 185, we've got, here, let me zoom in for you guys. Minus 185, we've got a 70.8% divisional average here, and we're only paying 64.91% on the price of the line. Both of Amarim's fights have went over 2.5 rounds. 3 of 4 Corey McKenna fights have went over 2.5 rounds. So 83.33% of their combined fights have went over 2.5 rounds, but we're only paying 64.5% on the line. We compare that 83.33% to the divisional benchmark, and we're getting a 12% break there. So that's what we call a trifecta bet, when this number, and this number are all green. So I'm taking that as a straight bet, and it'll probably be something that's in my greasy 4-legger for this week for you guys. But that is the first bet that I'm going with this week. The second bet is going to be the under 2.5 rounds at plus 155 for 1 unit for Josh Kulaba versus Danny Silva. This is more off of what I saw from stylistic, the way that these guys fight. Danny Silva is a guy that likes to get into boxing range. In order to do that, he's going to have to try to close the distance against Josh. And Josh is a very accurate and powerful striker. So I think that somebody's going to get hit hard here early, and there's going to be potential on both sides for a finish. Danny Silva making his UFC debut could be a potential that he slows down after round 1. Josh Kulaba showed a very opportunistic submission game in his fight against Dgeren, which was his last win at the UFC level. And 3-fight winning streak, 3-0-1 before the last fight against Laron Murphy. And Danny Silva is a guy that forces a fight. So I'm looking for violence here. I think stylistically it kind of lines up pretty nice. The prop template doesn't love it because we've only got a 6-fight sample size once again. And I think only 2 of Kulaba's fights of 6 have went under 2.5 rounds. So it's pretty fairly priced here. As you can see, we're getting a 2% break here, and we're paying just a little bit, 4.4% and 6.4% more. But it's a small sample size, and Danny Silva's fights, like I said, are ones that we're going to see in the pocket here. A lot of striking. And even though people think Josh Kulaba is going to wrestle, Kulaba has been 0 for 13 on his takedown attempts at the UFC level. So he really hasn't done a good job of being able to force grappling exchanges in fights where he's not comfortable in the striking exchanges. As you can see here, 0 of 13 in the UFC for Josh Kulaba, and he's only controlled his opponents 7% of his UFC cage time thus far, and that's in a 6-fight sample size of 75 minutes of cage time. So I think that Josh is going to be striking at distance like he is most of the time in the UFC, and I think that somebody's going to get served here. So I like that under 2.5 rounds. I'm also looking at the under 2.5 rounds for Dgeren versus Rodriguez. Isaac Dgeren has never even been out of the first round in 6 professional fights and 4 amateur fights. So Christian Rodriguez probably going to be the much better striker here. He's also got some really nice power on the feet. He's also got a really tricky submission game. Great front choke series, anaconda, Darce chokes, guillotine chokes. So he can absolutely get to your back too. So we can see Christian Rodriguez, if Isaac does slow down in the second half of this fight, potentially getting a finish. And Isaac Dgeren has finished all 10 of his pro and amateur opponents in round number 1. So he's a vicious finisher in his own right. So I've got 1.05 units at -105 to win 1 unit there. And then we've got the Thiago Moises versus Mitch Ramirez under 1.5 rounds at +125. Mitch is kind of a guy that bounces around between lightweight and welterweight. His last fight was at welterweight. I don't like the fact that he's got to make 155 on short notice here because he just took this fight about 8 days ago, or 8 days before fight day. So the weight cut combined with the UFC debut, the short notice nature of the fight, and Thiago Moises' ability to find submissions against the guy in Ramirez who's not known for being a phenomenal grappler. He's a guy that can wrestle offensively, win some minutes on top, but in terms of submission grappling acumen, Thiago Moises is going to be about 3 steps ahead of him on the ground. So I do like Moises to lock up a submission early here, and I'm taking that under 1.5 rounds to also bring in the possibility if Mitch Ramirez were to land something big on the feet. He doesn't have anything to lose here. He could throw caution to the wind and just go swinging. And if he does that and lands something big, the under 1.5 could hit that way as well. So looking for those 4 bets to hit hopefully this week. And let's see what you guys have got for me in the chat today. We got Paku in here saying, "Oi, another day, another Weezy show." Yes. What's up, Paku? Let me know if you got any questions on this card, if you need to look at any of the data that we have available here. And like I said, you guys, I've got the templates for like a lot of these fights. For instance, if you wanted to ask me about Levy versus Davis, I've got Davis's stats here. I've got Natan Levy's stats here. I've got the advanced matchup stats here. I've got the analytics for the division in here. I've got the prop template, and I've got the betting template here so that we can let me get this up to 125. We can take a look at which of these bets have some value. We can find the trifecta bets potentially in the betting template here for Natan Levy or for Mike Davis. We can also even take a look at the significant strike props for Mike Davis here on Prize Picks and Underdog. We could take a look at the takedown props. We could take a look at the fantasy score props here. There was one that I was looking at for Kennedy and Chekwu. I like the over for significant strikes for Kennedy this week. And I also kind of like the over or the fight starts round 2 on the prop template for Kennedy and Chekwu this week, which we will see is a very big trifecta bet. Why is that not in there? I know I saw that was... That's very strange. Okay. I thought I had those lines in there for some reason, but they are not. So let's get them in there. And let me move this. No. I'll put the lines in here for us. There we go. How bad is it going to be when Kennedy Nzechukwu shaves this dude's ass? I mean, when was the last time this guy, St. Preux, even showed up to a fight? So under 2.5 rounds is minus 385. Got the fight doesn't start round 3 at minus 265. And we've got the fight doesn't start round 2 at minus 103. We've got the over 2.5 rounds at 260. We've got the fight starts round 3 at 188 and minus 129 for the fight to start round 2. And this was the bet that I was talking about, the fight to start round 2. You can see that we're paying 56% at minus 129 on the implied probability of the line, but 62% of 205-pound fights scheduled for 3 rounds go over that number, go to round 2. So that's a 6% discount there. 15 of 21 Ovin St. Preux fights in his UFC career have went over or have started round 2. And for Kennedy, it's 8 of 10. You add that up, and it's a 74% combined that these guys go to round 2. And Kennedy's not the fastest starter. So I think that this is a trifecta bet that if you're willing to hold your breath for a little bit, it's a plus EV potential parlay piece, or just something to sprinkle a little lunch money on. But like that fight starts round 2. And we got TH in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Weezy? I am ready to answer questions tonight, TH. And I'm just looking to find ways to find some bets here that we can all cash on, and we can find some value, some plus EV spots." We got Presidente Pedro in here with the flapjacks. What's up, Pedro? Let me know if you got any questions for me. We got Ucelis in the room saying, and you think Ode versus Filio goes over 1.5. So let's take a look here. 1.5 rounds. Do we even have a 1.5 round line here for Ode versus Filio? Let's take a look. So on SXBet, they got the over at minus 130, and we got plus 107. So wait, which was which though? It's the under that's 107. So 107 here, minus 130. So on the analytics, minus 130 for the over 1.5 rounds. 56.5% is the price of the line. About 71% of flyweight fights do go over 1.5 rounds. So that line is way underpriced according to the benchmark for the division. The benchmark's over 71%. We're only paying 56%. So right there, you know that the bookies have a stylistic read that this fight is going to go under because they're overpricing the under here by about 19.5%, right? So we know that there's about 5% of VIG in this line, and they're really shading it towards this under. And we see here that the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 260 on Bet Online. The under 2.5 at minus 205. These are overpriced by about 27%. So obviously the stylistic read is that this fight goes under, that somebody gets finished. And we know Ode Osborne's fights have finished in round 1. 5 of his 8 UFC fights, and it's 50% for Filio. It's 1 of 2. So 6 of 10 of their combined UFC fights have finished in round 2. So do I think Filio goes over 1.5? I mean, potentially yes, but even though they're underpricing it by about 15% according to the benchmark, still only 40% of their combined 10 UFC fights are going over 1.5 rounds. And even outside the UFC, it's 44%. So these guys are both finishers, and they've both been finished. So minus 130, I feel like I would need even more. I would need less of a price, because this is still 56% compared to 40. So stylistically, I think Filio is going to go for takedowns and look for submissions. And Ode Osborne has been submitted a lot. And Ode hits very hard and is very precise and has got a lot of power early in fights. So I see why these, look overpriced, but at the same time, the numbers are all green here. And that's because 60% of their fights have ended under 1.5, 70 under 2.5, and 80% haven't even went to the scorecard. So these two are finishers in a class where only 44% of the fights finish inside the distance. So I wouldn't lay juice on that over 1.5, but I could certainly see it going over 1.5. But Ode's dangerous early, and submission grapplers are usually most dangerous early in fights when both fighters are dry, easier to get a grip, easier to sink in a submission. So I'm going to be staying away from the betting props or the time props on this fight. Is Mitch Ramirez a steal on DraftKings this week or a bust? I wouldn't play him in a cash lineup, personally, but for GPPs, I mean, I think he's got some upside. The guy's definitely a finisher. He's finished 7 of his 8 wins inside the distance. So there's a guy that's got some upside, and we know that Thiago Moises certainly has that quit in him. I mean, when things are not going his way, he runs for the door and he finds it every damn time. So but when he's doing well, I mean, he looks great. It's just when it becomes clear to him that he's not going to win the fight, Thiago can find that door. So maybe Ramirez can land a big shot on the feet. Maybe he can stuff a couple takedowns and frustrate the dude and hurt him a little bit. But I think the most likely result is that Thiago gets in on this guy's hips, gets a takedown, finds a way to his back, and waits for him to make a mistake. And if he gets that takedown early, he'll have 4 minutes to find that mistake to advance position to get to the back and sink in the rear naked choke. So, I mean, I would rather pay up just a little bit and throw like a Brian Barberena in there, just because Barberena is going up against GM3, and GM3 is not a guy that's going out there and finishing dudes in round 1. A lot of times he finishes in round 3, and Barberena is a guy that can kind of push a pace and land a lot of strikes and rack up some points. Like Barberena, I got the numbers in front of me here. This is a sheet that I've been working on here that has DraftKings scoring for all the fighters on a slate, but I've only gotten about halfway through it. But either way, if we look at, we don't have Moises' numbers. My bad. Anyway, I was mentioning that Barberena is the guy who in his losses 35.4 points. So that's pretty good, so he sticks around. He's hard to finish unless you're submitting him. And guys like Gunnar Nelson get a lot of first round submissions. Gerald gets a lot of third round submissions. So I would rather go with Barberena than Ramirez this week. I don't think eating is a priority when I require immediate greatness as Real Fight Picks. Great things come to those who wait, my man. And yeah, the food was a little bit late, but I got some food in my belly. I'm ready to talk some fights. So let me know if you got any questions for me today, my man. We got Bob saying, damn, we were being blessed this week with Ask Weezy. Yeah, I was going to do, I didn't do it last week because we did probability last week, and that was a real treat. And I've got all the tools here for probability today. So let me know if you got any prop-based questions for your Uncle Weezy this week. Always good to see my guy Bob checking in here from the Netherlands. We got Boob in the room. We got Weezy. Did you see Armin said he'd bang Kayla Harrison? I did somewhere see that. Yeah, I think so. I mean, good for him, man. Why not, right? He's a lusty young lad. He should be spreading his seed all over the damn place, as long as the women he wants to spread his seed with want it in return. That's what I'm saying, man. I'm all for love. Spread it around. Have a good time. Armin should have a good time. He's young. He's in the prime of his life. He should be smashing as much ass as he could possibly get. Who cares who it is? We got Randy Fowler in the room saying tits Tuivasa for the KO. Let's see what the KO prop looks like for Tuivasa here. On my betting template. the template of doom. So Tuivasa by KO minus 107. So yeah, I mean the win condition though is 77%. You know, I mean Tuivasa 7 of 8 wins in 3-round fights, that is, by KO. Marcin Tybura 3 of 5 losses by KO. So that means 77% of the win condition here for Tai Tuivasa based on the previous performance of him and his wins and Tybura in his losses is by KO. So when we take that 77% and we multiply it by the implied probability of the line at minus 121, which is 54.75%, we come about with a 42% adjusted win condition for Tai Tuivasa to win by KO. And the price of the line right now is 51.69. So yeah, I'd rather get that KO profit plus money. We're not there's a little value on decision, but it's a 5-round fight, so we're not even going to play with that. And really, it hates all of Tybura's props that were on Bet Online. So yeah, this is one I'm going to be staying away from. I think it's a high variance fight. Does Ty land the big shot or not? And we know how front loaded Ty is. He's a round 1 or round 2 guy. His only win by decision ever came against Andrei Arlovsky. So yeah, I think that I think I'm going to be staying away from this fight as a whole. And we even had a lot of line movement, as we discussed last night on Just the Tip, in that under 1.5 rounds, which leads me to believe that somebody might know something too. We got Bob. He's got a CLV trophy, ladies and gentlemen, that will probably burn as well. Mike Davis at minus 142. So I guess lock in your Natan Levy bets, everybody. Wow, that's fantastic, dude, because the last I saw Davis, he was at minus 420, I think. Let me have a look-see. Mike Davis minus 420. Wow. So that is a phenomenal, dude. You can get out right now on Natan Levy at plus 320. So I don't want to hear any bitching out of you, Bob. That would be a great way to just get out right now, or at least lock in. So where you say you lose nothing if Levy wins, and then you just shape that plus 320 bet on Natan Levy in order to make sure that you lose no money and that you lock in a profit if Davis wins. But at minus 142, that's the thing about that kind of CLV, dude. You almost have to let it ride, because really it's about getting your money in good and making good bets. And when you get your money down early and the whole market agrees with you and is pushing everything in the same way, it's really hard to back out sometimes. But sometimes it's a good thing to do, to just kind of swallow your pride and say, you know what, I'll lock in the gain. So up to you whether you want to do that. I would personally let it ride. Mike Davis at minus 142 against Natan Levy. I think there's a lot of people that would love to get that line, Bob. Desperation after an unhealthy diet of goats and donkeys. Yeah, man. No, I hear that, dude. I've been there, man. We got Benjamin Burnt in the room saying, oi, oi, oi. Yeah, get it up. Enjoy the numbers approach, Weezy. I appreciate you, Ben. Let me know if you got any questions for me that I can answer about the numbers on any of these prize picks props, underdog props, anything that you got for me, man. I'm ready to rock today. We got Bob saying, Kayla with those meat slabs of arms she got would power slam his. He asked through the floor if he tries something. Yeah, she's strong, man. 2-time gold medalist in judo. Hap Chandler in the room saying, what's good, Weezy, my guy? All is good, man. I'm flying out to sunny Florida for the weekend. Going to go visit my dad down there. So going to have a nice little weekend here. Finishing up the content tonight. Going to finish up my packing tonight and enjoy the flight down there and spend some time poolside hanging out with the fam. It'll be a great time. Weezy, thoughts on crazy line for Tybura decision? Yeah, we were just looking at the betting template there. So Tybura decision at plus 750. So 7 out of 11 of his wins come by decision. That's in 3-round fights. 1 of 4 losses for Ty. So it's 8 of 15 or 53.33%. So that is a win condition. Oh, I never put his implied probability in there. So no wonder all of his numbers look so bad. So 107, I think, is the line on him right now. So it really does love these decision props. Because Tybura is a guy that really doesn't finish unless he gets on top of you. Otherwise, he can just point fight and stay safe at a distance and throw a lot of kicks. So, plus 750. Now, remember, it's already plus 700 for the fight to go to decision. So, I would personally just bet fight goes to decision instead of 750 for Tybura. But you know what? That might not be. Let me see if that is a good line or a bad line. So we got Tybura points plus 800 here. And then on Bet Rivers, Bet Rivers has method decision 750. Yeah, so we can get 800. It's a little bit better number, and the prop template likes it as a trifecta bet. Not bad at all. I mean, but it's kind of a sweat, dude. Kind of a sweat at plus 800, a 5-round fight against a guy coming off a knee injury that just forced him out of a fight 3 months ago. So, with the rehab time, who knows how long he's even been training? Who knows if Ty's got what it takes to go 5 rounds, even if it is against Marcin Tybura. He might have nothing left after 3. So, I mean, it's greasy, dude. I would rather get 4 digits, meaning like plus 1,000, plus 1,100 for a heavyweight fight to go the distance. I mean, you're already looking at that being around. Well, let's look at the prop template. Here's the prop template. We can just take a look at the 5-round rate right now. Yeah, dude, 80% of the time, the fight doesn't go to decision in 5-round heavyweight fights. So right there, you're talking about a 20% fight goes rate. That's bringing you up to plus 400 on the money line just as a baseline. And now you're getting plus 700, and 75% of their combined 5-round fights have finished inside the distance, and really it's inside of round 4. So yeah, this is I'd need a big line. I'd need 4 digits. We got primetime feline in the room saying, oh, I love it and hate it at the same time. Marcin and Ty drink the poison from the same vine. We'll see, man. It's not the best fight. It's not the best main event, but we're coming off last week. We're a little bit spoiled. We got Hap saying, Weezy, I'm picking Tuivasa, but I'm also thinking that all he does is crack jokes and drink beer, so I could see him losing. Yeah, dude, I was very agnostic about the pick on this fight. I could see it going both ways. So because of that, I kind of feel like it's a heavyweight fight. Tuivasa could land a big shot early. That's how he wins fights. And if Tybura just Homer Simpsons him like he did against like Romanov, for instance, and then win the later rounds, who knows how long it'll go. I mean, it's one of those fights that I have no urge to put money on. Don't think he wins by decision, but man, he found a plus 1,200 for Tybura by decision. I don't hate that, actually. I don't hate it, because it could be a tenth of a unit bet to win 1.2, it could be a small shot. And I think that because Tybura is not known as a finisher, you never know, man. I think you make a case for a lot of underdogs on this card. Well, let me tell you something. I picked so many underdogs on this card this week. Here are my Tapology picks. Tuivasa's a favorite. Lusa's an underdog. And check who's a favorite. Rodriguez, the second underdog. Chason favorite. Meerschaert favorite. Davis favorite. Chandler underdog 3. Filio favorite. Moises favorite. Kulaba favorite. Amarim underdog 4. and Helliger underdog. I've got 5 underdogs here. So I think that's a lot, on a 13 fight card. But I think that there's a case to be made for a lot of them this week. And I think Tybura's live. I don't know who else is live, but hell, Danny Silva's live. Yeah, so there's you can make cases for him. We're going to see if they come through or not, but you can definitely make cases for him, Dylan. We got Hap saying, I'm really excited for Simon and Talbot next weekend. Some advice I would give to anyone is watch Talbot's money line. I will be. Yeah, man, Talbot's a stud. I love watching that dude fight. Super durable, as is Simon. So one thing I'll be looking at for that fight is an over 2.5 rounds, because they both got bricks for heads. So I'll be looking over 2.5 rounds in that fight. That's going to be a really fun one for sure. Best fight on next week's card. We got Ice Viking saying, aren't you concerned that it might not take many strikes for Kennedy to get it done? Well, here, let me show you this. Yes, of course I am, Ice Viking. It would be ridiculous for me to say, no, I believe completely in the durability of Ovin St. Preux at this point. But the thing is, right? So we've got all the numbers up here, right? Kennedy lands 4.44 significant strikes per minute. Ovin absorbs about 3.59. So we've got a weighted average there of about 3.83. And here's what I have for my predictions, right? The fighter averages. So the TITS metric prediction for Kennedy and Nchekwu, which is a weighted average of what Kennedy and Nchekwu scores in a win combined with what St. Preux absorbs in a loss. And then we're going to multiply that by the expected weight, or the what would be the average fight time for these two, which is 8.65 minutes. And that gives us 44.11 is what we get for the TITS metric prediction for this fight. And we're only paying 25.5. So just based on what Kennedy lands per minute, what Ovin absorbs per minute. And keep in mind, Ice Viking, this is a big sample size. This is 21 3-round fights for Ovin St. Preux, 10 3-round fights for Nchekwu. So we got a 31 fight sample size here. And I've got predictions that are going kind of between 22 on the low side to 44 on the high side. And one thing that I normally find when I'm doing these significant strike predictions is that these things are always priced towards an over bias. A lot of people don't bet unders for significant strike bets. The over bets are more popular, so they're shaded that way. I always find way more value on the unders. So when I'm going an over on significant strikes, I think that means that I'm definitely looking for this fight to start round 2. We already talked about that fight starts round 2 prop. 8 of 10 Kennedy fights start round 2. The ones that don't are the ones where he gets finished, right? Ovin is probably not finishing Kennedy, So while I am concerned, I have to look at the data. I have to look at the overall picture of how Kennedy does it, right? 6 of 10 fights, he's landed more than 25.5 significant strikes. St. Preux absorbed more than that, 11 of 21. So I got a 54% rate here. That's pretty good. 60% of winners get over 25.5 significant strikes in this division, 40% of losers. So the TITS metric gives us a prediction that 58%, based on the history of the entire division and Kennedy and Nchekwu's win probability for this fight, tell us we got about a 58% chance that he goes over that number as well. So a lot of things in the way there data-wise that I like, and stylistically, I don't see Kennedy finishing fights in the first round. So I think it'll take him to get to the second. And since Ovin St. Preux is basically just a heavy bag these days, I think he'll be able to land a lot of shots. We got Hap Chandler saying Talbot is one of the biggest bantamweights on the roster. Actually amazed he can make weight. Looks like a featherweight. Him, O'Malley, and Umar are all featherweights. Yeah, it's always a nice little cheat code when you could be one of the biggest dudes in the division. We got Fubu saying, "Oh, I love your work, Unc. I love you for hanging out, Fubu. Always good to see you in here, my man. Let me know if you got any questions." Presidente Pedro saying, "What do you think about the under 2.5 on Lusa versus Battle?" So let's get that prop template up here. Battle versus Lusa. All right. Damn it, you guys. I thought that this was all filled in. Let me get the rest of the props on this, because we're just now starting to get some of these. So the under 1.5 is 265. The over 1.5 is minus 400. And then we've got the fight doesn't start round 3 is at 195. And then we got a 410 for 2. And for fight starts round 3, we got minus 275. And we've got fight starts round 2 and minus 625. And you are asking me about the under 2.5 rounds here, which is plus 185. Let's see if that's moved on Bet Online. I always do the Bet Online lines because they have the least vig in these props. So the game totals here. So now the under 2.5 is 170 and minus 210. So let's do a 170 here. Minus 210. And then let's just adjust as well. Where the fight doesn't go and fight goes, 150 minus 190. All right. Now, I think this fight goes over, but it's because I think that it doesn't mean that that's not the way I wouldn't bet the opposite, right? Because if it's a mispriced line, even if I think it goes over, if I'm getting a price I can't pass up on the under, I have to look at it. Now, Brian Battle's fights are finishing under 2.5 rounds 4 of 6 times. And that's him finishing, right? That's Brian Battle finishing his opponent. But Anguloa is a very durable dude. So he's been put in bad spots in the Jack Della Maddalena fight on Dana White's Contender Series, in the third round of the Reese McKee fight, in the second round of the AJ Fletcher fight. You can touch Anga. You can put him in bad spots on the feet. So just because he's never been finished doesn't mean he can't be finished. And the prop template would consider this actually one of the better lines on the card, in terms of we're getting an 8.63% discount there, 7.41% discount there, and negative 1.23. We're overpaying just a little bit when we compare this 44% to this 45.67% benchmark for the under 2.5 rounds for the division. So 4 of 9 fights, 44 combined, 44.44% combined, have went under 2.5. We're only paying 37% on the line. I think it's certainly possible that hits, because Brian Battle is a very good finisher. He's an opportunistic submission grappler, and we might see him lining up some chokes or stuff if we see Anguloa get a little bit desperate on his shot attempts. Both of these guys have power on the feet, so I could see them both landing a big shot. Right now, I would say that the over 2.5 rounds, even though I think it goes over 2.5 stylistically, it's not priced even close to in a way that would interest me in betting it. So I would have to say, like, the value is there's a lot of green right here, and there's a lot of green in here, you guys. So if you are of the stylistic read that Brian Battle gets a finish here, or that maybe we see Anguloa take the next step and figure out how to finish fights at this level, and he can finish Battle, there's going to be some value on taking these under shots if that's your stylistic read this week, Pedro. That's what I would tell you, my man. Hap saying, I've always wondered this. When the line starts, are the people who determine the starting lines just hardcore MMA fans that are bookies? Now, they're risk managers. Really, what they are at the end of the day is they're risk managers. So different books are going to manage risk in different ways, but you're going to be using a mathematical underpinning at all times when you consider how you're going to open a line. So while these guys probably do have some knowledge of MMA, what they're going to look at is how lines have opened previously on these two fighters, because they're going to have, like if they're opening Billy Quarantillo versus Yusuf Zalal, which is a new fight next week, they're going to, all right, we got to come up with an opening line here. They're going to look at the recent trends. They're going to look at where Quarantillo has been trading prior to that. Where did he open against Edson Barbosa? Where did he open in the other fights that he's had? Damon Jackson, for instance, any of those. And they're going to use the mathematical underpinnings. They're going to have a little bit of an algorithm that probably prices this thing. And then they're going to kind of determine which way the public is going to go. And they know that they're going to go in the direction of Quarantillo. It's short notice for Zalal as well. So while they have to have some knowledge of the sport, they are going to be using risk management techniques that their bosses want them to use. And they're going to use those techniques through a certain framework that's going to spit out an opening line for them. And then they're going to open that line and have small limits on them so that they can use the information that comes in from their bettors. And then they know when you bet whether you suck or whether you know something. And if all their smart bettors are on fighter A to win, they're going to start moving that fighter A line and make it a lot more expensive. So they're going to use all the available information that they have at their fingertips. We got you, Celis, saying, thank you, Weezy. You got it, man. Anytime, you let me know if you need anything. We got Randy saying, Chelsea Chandler optimum in DraftKings fantasy. I could see that fight being a real bond burner. And I could see whoever wins that fight being optimal this week. They both score a lot of points. I think that's one of the ones I didn't put on my sheet, but I do have numbers for both of these ladies. So if you take a look at Joe Benavidez here, Joe Benavidez is scoring 4.04 DraftKings points per minute and allowing 3.1. Scoring 97 points per fight, allowing 36. Chelsea Chandler is scoring about 2.55 DraftKings points per minute, allowing 3.75. So both of these ladies are allowing more than 3 DraftKings points per minute. Both of these ladies have a ton of power. Both of these ladies finish fights. So I would say that this is a good fight to target both sides of in tournaments. And I think it might go a little bit under-owned, which will give you some potential leverage. And a lot about whether somebody is optimal or not has a lot to do with leverage. So, I think it's definitely a possibility if Chelsea gets the win that she could wind up being optimal. We got Fubu saying, if you watch Yanni the Greek and Nick Kalikas, Nick is one of the guys that sets the line. I can't remember what book he works for, but yes, they know their shit. Yes, they do. But Yanni the Greek is not like a guy that's watching tape on UFC fighters. Yanni the Greek is a math guy that is looking for edges in the gambling market. He's looking for plus EV bets, and he's using data to find those plus EV bets. There's no way that dude could ever watch the tape on all of the teams and fighters that he's betting on, because he bets across multiple sports. Nick, I don't know I know Nick is Circa Sportsbook, right? So he's Circa Sports in Las Vegas, and he was also MMA odds breaker. So Nick is probably somebody who is watching some tape or is getting fed information from people that are watching tape. And what Nick is probably going to do as well is he's going to have his book of sharp bettors that he know their shit. And good sports books want winning sports bettors betting at their books, because it's another piece of available information that they can use to manage their risk. It's so important to have smart guys betting on your shit, because while you're paying them out, that information, that sharp action, is worth so much more, because it allows you to be able to fleece the morons. And there are plenty of morons out there gambling that don't understand the finer points. And it doesn't mean that they're morons in life. It just means that they're not taking all the necessary information into account. They're parlaying everything that's minus 200 and better. And these guys know how to get the most out of those people. And so it's a good mix of both that these guys make money off of. It's having those sharp bettors that can tell you when you're underpricing a line, because they're going to get in there and bet it heavy, and it'll allow you to be able to adjust the price of that line when you get the information from those sharp bettors. And then it'll also let you know when the sharp bettors are avoiding certain things, that those are things maybe now that you can juice up a little bit and kind of get people to bet on them that they wouldn't have bet on it before, because you're making the price more attractive. EQ is in the room saying, ahoy, hoy, Captain Weezy. What's up, EQ? Hope all is well on your end today, brother. We've got Hap Chandler saying, Fubu, thanks, man. I've always wondered that. It does make me wonder how the guys that set the lines get to bet as well. Yeah, well, it's still, unless they're dealing with inside information, it's still just an opinion at the end of the day. Hap saying, I would pick Rodriguez because I think he has a more rounded skill set. But if you look at that, both guys, same height at 5'7", but Dgeren is all muscle while Rodriguez is skinny fat. Yeah, we're gonna have to see if Rodriguez, what the plan is for him going forward. Whether he wants to fight at 145 or whether he can, get that weight cut dialed into to 35, because he might be better off suited moving up to 145. We'll find out. We'll see how he does against Dgeren. We got Fubu saying they will be under a massive amount of scrutiny. I would guess so. It must be above board. Oh yeah, they're definitely under scrutiny. Yeah, it's got to be above board, and that's why you engineer financial products that give the advantage to the house. It's called financial engineering. It's basically how options are priced, how bonds are priced, how futures are priced. All these financial engineering things that you see in the trading markets, everything that's done there, these markets here have mimicked those rules and those engineering tactics to create products as well that could be traded just on a different market. And we're trading a market here, you guys. I can tell you that for sure. I know that for sure, because I used to work on the floor of the Chicago Stock Exchange. I used to work on the floor of the Chicago Board of Trade. I know how markets work. I know how they're engineered, and I know the math that goes behind them, because I've passed 3 actuarial exams as well. So these things are absolutely above board. They've got a mile of regulations and rules that they need to follow in order to be trusted with that role of bookie. We got Fubu saying, Armin versus Kayla goes to decision. I love it. Armin Kayla is definitely a finish for Armin on Kayla. There you go, man. That hidden treasure got battled at minus 135, and he thought he had CLV. Really like Davis this weekend. Yeah, battle at minus 135 is excellent CLV. So that's a great bet there, man. We got Andrew saying, Bob, arb profit. It's always a good idea to do that sometimes, man. You never know when you're going to look like a genius for arbing out of a big trade. Brady Stevens saying Billy Quarantillo is the same odds at minus 150 versus Yusuf Zalal as he was against Edson Barbosa. Am I crazy, or is that a must bet? Yes. Yes, it is. I mean, Yusuf Zalal is just mid, and Quarantillo puts such a pace on his opponents. I mean, Yusuf might be able to take him down and hold him down. I mean, Yusuf's no joke, you guys. He's still very young, training at Factory X, at elevation. He's got good cardio. He's can be a tricky guy to fight. He can kind of try to slow you down. But Billy Quarantillo is such a hard guy to slow down. The guy fights at a furious pace. OSP Kennedy under 1.5. I think that's a little bit overpriced this week, my man. My prop template actually likes the over, but that's based on the data. The problem with this is that we're betting on Ovin St. Preux today, not Ovin St. Preux from 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 17, 18, 19. None of that, but this takes it into control or takes into account all of it, all of everything past 2013. So, at minus 155, though, God, that's a fat number, man. I mean, a guy like Kennedy who doesn't have one punch knockout power, but if he starts landing those knees, shit can get ugly really quick. I'm going to be looking at Kennedy round 1, round 2, see what that line is. Maybe take a shot on round 2, round 3. I don't know, man. I might just have to stay away from this one because it's gotten so blown out already, but I wouldn't be laying minus 155. I mean, he probably gets it done under 1.5, but Kennedy is a guy that, the finishes come a little bit later in fights generally. So I don't love that number. Hap saying, I got Zalal, and I don't even know why Billy is the favorite. Zalal survived every aspect of Ilya's game. He's an elite kickboxer, and if he can stuff takedowns, it's over for Billy. Well, but Billy doesn't need takedowns. Billy's on the pressure and the volume. That's what Billy does really well, and he hits really hard on the feet. I think Billy mixing in the takedowns is what helps him tire his opponents out a little bit quicker, but also you'll see a lot of guys taking Billy down because Billy doesn't have the best takedown defense. But what he does is he makes you work for those takedowns, and then he gets back up and he makes you work for the next one too. And as soon as you tire out, as soon as he stuffs one of those takedowns, then he starts coming forward. Then he starts putting together 7 or 8 punch combinations. He backs you up to the fence, and then you realize, shit, there's still 7 minutes left in this fight. And this guy is never going to fuck off. So I like Billy Quarantillo a lot. Yusuf is solid, but he's far from spectacular anywhere. That's the problem. I think Quarantillo's output is spectacular. His conditioning is spectacular. His pace is spectacular. Well, I think like Zalal is pretty good everywhere, and he's got good conditioning. But the power, there's just not a lot of power there. So I like Billy here, Hap. But that's an interesting fight. I got to get those stats done for you guys. That'll be one thing I get done, hopefully late night tonight before I go to Florida. Andrew saying, what does the prop template say about Silva Kulaba over 1.5 rounds? I'm betting the under 2.5, but it's gonna like that over 1.5. At what price? I maxed the line at minus 157. When then Bet Online moved it, so minus 157 is where it came in because there's no over 1.5s available on this fight right now. I don't think. But let me look. Silva Kulaba. Let's see if any books have a 1.5 out here. It looks like Bovada has it at minus 300 and plus 220. So at minus 157, it's a massive trifecta bet because 5 of 6 Kulaba fights have went over 1.5. You're paying only 61% at that line, but 72% of featherweight fights go over 1.5 rounds. So 10.86% savings, 22%, 11%. The prop template loves that. And obviously it does because it's priced right now at minus 300 and plus 220. So let me put that in there. Minus 300 and plus 220. So yeah, it's definitely still priced. I mean, kind of in a place where you can hit it at 5 of 6, but with Danny Silva being a debutante, that's a little bit of a missing information. We don't know how he's going to perform. So yeah, I think that line definitely hits though, my man. Or I mean that you probably can at least arb out for a guaranteed profit if you're nervous about it. But I think that goes over 1.5. Yippee Kaye saying, in any universe, could OSP pull off a submission win? I don't think so. because like I could just picture like OSP going for a takedown, Kennedy jumping for a guillotine, and then Safe Sayud's head just exploding. Like literally, it's like, why are you going for a guillotine on this man? The only way that he's finished fights outside of that knockout, against Alonzo Menafiel was by that choke, like which you can only give to him, if you go for the guillotine. So I would think that, Kennedy having a really good coach over there at Fortis MMA, he's not going to be looking for any guillotines unless it's a high elbow standing guillotine or something like that, a ninja choke. Like those, I could see Kennedy getting a submission like that. So, no, I mean, I think an OSP submission would be just a severe long shot because he's not submitting anybody without getting that shoulder choke. And if he's not getting that shoulder choke unless somebody goes for a guillotine on him. True, Talbot is durable as fuck, bro, and he's huge, and he never stops coming forward. Scary fight. He's a very scary opponent. He reminds me a lot of Billy Quarantillo, the way that he fights. JSP versus Onama just got announced. I'm so hyped. I got Onama by KO early. If not, then maybe JSP could drown him, but I doubt it. That's a great fight. You got a guy in Onama who's an athletic freak with a ton of power and a decent grappling game in his own right against a guy in JSP who's just huge for the division, brings just crazy pace and the ability to mix in wrestling whenever he wants to, and a very good chin. So that's going to be a hell of a fun fight. Really looking forward to that one. JSP, one of my favorite fighters, and David Onama has been in great fights. We got Ice Viking saying those are some excellent points, Unc. Appreciate you running that down for us. Hey, it's Ask Weezy. That's what I'm here for, brother. Let's get it. We got Fender Jazz in the room saying, good day from Ottawa, Weezy. Good to have you hanging out in here, Fender Jazz. Let me know if you got any questions for me. We got Ben Katie in the room saying, thoughts on the Bam Bam KO TKO parlay, which is Barberena Tuivasa coming in at plus 1130 on FanDuel. So let's get that Meerschaert, Barberena. So this is what the new product, what I want it to look like, right? And I wanted to have, a page of stats for each fighter. This is Meerschaert here. That's the pre-UFC experience you're seeing right there. This is the UFC experience that you're seeing right there. And then this is the dashboard that has all the stats. And we do that for both fighters. There'll be a basic matchup template like this. There'll be an advanced matchup template that you're used to seeing already. There'll be an analytics page for the division so that you can know all the over-under stats, the significant striking stats overall and at distance, the grappling metrics and the control time striking stats, DFS work rates by minute. All this stuff will be available here. And then all of that Meerschaert data, that Barberena data, and then all the analytics from this sheet are going to feed into that prop template. It's going to feed into the betting template that you see right here. Where if we were to go here and go 125. Okay. So if we're looking at Brian Barberena by KO, plus 500 is the number that I saw that I put in here. That's 16.67% implied probability. They're saying that's half of his win condition because he's at 33% on the fight right here. It's about 44% of his win condition. 11% is sub. And then 44% is decision, according to win and loss stats from both fighters. So, yeah, I mean, I think Barberena's path here is KO. He could win a decision, I suppose, if Meerschaert just doesn't wrestle at all. But, I mean, I do think Meerschaert wins this fight, but I don't mind that, I guess, because it's not like it's overpriced according to my template. It's not like they're ripping you off at plus 500, and you might even get something better than that. If you're getting 1130 parlaying with Tuivasa KO, which is basically going to be the same as his money line in a 5-round fight. So yeah, it's not bad, dude. Plus 1130, you can sprinkle that a little bit. Could work out if Brian shocks the world. And if he does, you're going to be looking good going into that main event, man. Weezy, I'm glad I'm not the only one picking Anga and that you're on him too. I don't get what people are saying. He's more well-rounded. He can take a shot and he's good. Both of these guys are good. That's a good co-main event, and that's what it's about. It's like when you're looking for paths to victory for both fighters and you're seeing things in tape that lead you to believe that both guys can win the fight. And one guy's minus 180 and the other one's plus 155. That plus 155 is something that you got to say, all right, does he have a chance to win this? Is it really 50-50? And if you do think so, then maybe you pull the trigger on that. So, man, I mean, I haven't gotten there yet, but I still might pull the trigger on Anga because I think the value is good at this price, and I think his wrestling has gotten a lot better. What's my favorite imported beer? I'm asking the real questions. Imported beer, because the funny thing is, Matt, I drink almost all domestic beer because I like the hazy IPAs. Oh boy, what would it be, man? See, one of my favorite stouts is the Imperial Russian stouts, but like I actually get most of that stuff from American breweries. I would, because I don't really drink imported beer. I would probably have to say something like Guinness. I would probably have to say Guinness because, like, I'll probably turn down just about everything else and choose something locally made that's got that hazy IPA type stuff that I like. Um, Delirium Tremens from Belgium. It's got some really nice ones. That would be a good imported beer that I would happily drink. I'm sure there's a bunch of English shit and Irish shit that I would just fucking love. German too. But I mean, like, I would probably just have to say Guinness for right now. Like, yeah, I've been saying it all week. I've been saying it all. I've been saying it for like 4 fights now. I don't know why the joke hasn't gotten old or why I'm still going to it, but I do. Dgeren is a sick last name, probably Armenian. Usually those names that end in IAN are Armenian names. He's probably of Armenian descent. Why'd you leave the stock exchange? And is this full time for you? Well, yeah, I'm trying to make this a full time gig, you guys. Yeah. And the stock exchange left me is really what happened. After 9/11, I was trading NASDAQ stocks on the floor of the stock exchange, and the markets crashed, right? And we were paying a bunch of money for order flow. So when the markets crashed, like the order flow payment method that we had was no longer feasible because the stocks that used to be trading at $80 were now trading at like $5. So we weren't getting enough of a spread to profitably trade the order flow that we were paying for. So yeah, 9/11 kind of ruined a lot of jobs on the floor of the Chicago Stock Exchange. And since then, the markets have become a lot more electronic. So they've taken a lot of the human element, the human specialists out of that job. So it was something where I would have gladly done that for the rest of my life had the opportunity been there, but it just wasn't there anymore. We got RJ's MMA in the room saying, "What's up, Uncle? Love watching at work. Good to see you hanging out in here, my man." We got Hunter saying, "How do I cap the GM3 fight?" The way I'm capping it is that I think the GM3 probably finds a submission. The official pick is GM3 by 3rd round submission, but I'm not paying up for it, man. GM3 is a guy that isn't like this chain wrestler. He's not a phenomenal wrestler. He's going to need to get into the body lock. He's going to need to kind of get into the clinch and then kind of try to, manipulate Barberena's feet, get a trip, get a body lock trip of some kind to get this fight to the ground. If he's able to do that, I think he's going to look very good, winning minutes and potentially even get a submission. But Barberena can be a tough opponent. He comes forward, he hits hard. But I don't think Barberena is suited for middleweight at all. I think this is really more of a I've got some fights left on my contract. I think I'm kind of done, but I could really use the money, because it's not like Barberena is fighting for 12 and 12, you guys. He's been in a lot of fights at the UFC level. He's getting paid to show up. If he doesn't win, he still walks home with a fat check, and all of his coaches and trainers get paid. So I see him moving up to 185 as I'm going to show up. I'm going to take my show check and not kill my kidneys, not kill myself trying to cut weight anymore because I'm just too old for that shit. And as a result, he's going to be fighting real middleweights when he's probably a guy that would be, not even like a 170, or if there was a 165 weight class, Brian Barberena probably would have been in it. So I think GM3 should absolutely win because not only is he very good, where Brian Barberena is very bad, there's a massive size difference here too. So yeah, I'm going with GM3. Haps and respect, Weezy. Even if we're going opposite ways, may the best man win. And it's always about the men in the cage. May the best men of one of those two win. You and I, we're just on different sides of a fight, and we can't get too serious about that. But yeah, man, it's gonna be good fights this week, and it's gonna be even better fights going forward, man. I like that Quarantillo Zalal fight, and that's gonna be a really good one. Anytime I get to see Billy Quarantillo in the cage, I'm happy about it as a fan. Bob saying, I always ride or die with those CLV trophies, my man. Let's go. Last week, I had Anthony Joshua to beat Ngannou by decision at plus 950, which closed at plus 300, and then he starches them, man. That's crazy. Fubu saying, OSP got some sneaky subs, straight arm licked Pedro. Yeah. Oh, God, Pedro's, yeah. Tyson Pedro's done. Is Nchekwood really worth that price? Yeah, probably not, man. Probably not. Because he can get sparked. That's the one thing about Nchekwood you have to really worry about is, I wonder what Ovin's first round KO is. That would be really interesting because that's how Kennedy loses fights. So let's find, yeah, here it is. Kennedy first round KO is not Kennedy, Ovin's. Fight parlays, Ovin's first round KO. You ready for this? Plus 2,800, you guys. And I mean, that's how he wins. That's how he wins because this guy Nchekwo's chin is not very good. And they always say it's the old adage, the power is the last thing to go. And you never know, man. I mean, dude, Devin Clark hurt him badly in the first round. Carlos Ulberg hurt him badly in the first round. Ion Kulaba hurt him badly in the first round. Dustin Jacoby hurt him badly in the first round. Da-Un Jung hurt him badly in the first round. So plus 2,800 for one more ride with Ovin St. Preux. Are we doing it by first round KO? Oh, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. That would be really that'd be kind of fun to take a shot on, man. Jay's saying no, Hunter. Yeah, I agree, man. Hap saying early pick on JSP Onama. I gotta go with my guy JSP. That's my guy, dude. JSP is my guy. I love the pace that he fights at. So yes, I think he could get takedowns. I think he could land shots on the feet, and I think that the longer the fight goes, it's just going to get harder and harder for Onama to deal with the pace that JSP brings. But that's great matchmaking because both those guys are studs, and JSP. The most dangerous type of opponent for JSP is somebody that can end your night quickly because going the full 15 with a guy like Pierce is a bad recipe to win fights because the pace that dude puts on is not sustainable for most people. Bob's saying he already bet Tuivasa, but man, that plus 1,200 for Tybura decision is crazy. That's a big fat number, man. There's you can put a tenth of a unit on it and still be like, yeah, I won 1.2 units. That's a good win. any 1.2 unit win is a good win. So does Barberena have pillow fists compared to Joe Pyfer? Compared to Joe Pyfer, yes. Does Barberena have pillow fists? Certainly not. He hits hard. He's got 4 wins by knockout in the UFC. This dude, if he hits you, if he cracks you, and he gets the idea in his head that you're hurt, he's gonna try to finish you. So Barberena's a scrapper. Hap saying, so you were in the stock market in 2001. You don't really seem old, Weezy. Respect, man. Yeah, I am old, unfortunately. I'm young at heart, ladies and gentlemen. I am young at heart, but yeah, these old bones have seen some things. Yeah, man. I was on the floor of the Chicago Stock Exchange when the towers fell. I was there through the NASDAQ boom and the NASDAQ crash. I was working as head trader for a small investment banking firm when Lehman Brothers went under in 2008. So yeah, man, I've seen some really interesting times in the financial system, man, for sure. Fubu saying, hit that like, boys and girls. Yeah, dude, hit that like, by the way. Like the subscribe button, so you don't miss out on any of the great content. You can leave me a comment down below and consider joining that Patreon so you get access to this phenomenal prop template, to all the individual stats, and then coming soon, probability. Once I figure out, see, what I'm having a problem is I used to be able to put all of these in the same sheet, the Mirror Sharp Barberena. But the way I have this new template set up, everything feeds into each other. And if I were to try to put 14 fights in the same sheet, it wouldn't work. So I'm exploring other options for how to deliver these stats to the Patreon customers. And then also I'm exploring options on how to display the data in a more eye-friendly way, especially for the probability shows with the betting template, the prop template, and then hopefully another show altogether for the prize picks type analytics, which, with the tits metric, with the fighter histories, the divisional metrics, everything that I have access to. I'm trying to put it all together. So appreciate you guys hitting that like, appreciate you guys supporting the work and putting eyes on the products, man. It does mean a lot. Drunken Boxing saying, yes, Kennedy's chin is worrisome. And if you're not worried about that chin and laying minus 500 on him, you might be very disappointed if Vince lands something big, man. And he's saying, what up, man? I'm doing good, Drunken Boxing. All is well here. I hope all is well with you. Fubu saying, how do you cap Kennedy's chin? Man, ain't everything Olberg gave him and then he gets Cade. I know, dude. That's the sport that we bet on. And that's why some of these products, Fubu, like this, are so useful, because it always tells you what you're up against. Like, you can get real caught up in your stylistic reads. And then, like, I loved Jailton Almeida last week. And then he dominates in the first round, gets 9 takedowns, doesn't absorb any significant strikes. And then he goes out there in the second, shoots a takedown, gets in on the hips, and then he just kind of like drops and then doesn't move. So it was like, I kind of like called it, he got his controller broken. Like, his controller, all of a sudden, it just stopped. Like, fucking work. You're supposed to move, and he didn't move. And, and like, it seemed fluky. It looked fixed, because like the way that he just dropped and didn't do anything, like he had no idea where he was, or he had no idea that he was in danger. It was just bizarre. It was bizarre, so that's a sport that we bet on. And some of this shit, you can cap it all you want in your head, but once that fight starts, some crazy shit happens, man. Drunken Boxing. So who are my favorite fighters? We've talked about a couple of them today. JSP, one of my favorite fighters. Peyton Talbot, one of my favorite fighters. I love that style that he brings. The style that Reese McKee brings in the cage. Like, he's not like this world beater or anything, but go watch Reese McKee's fights. They're fucking awesome. Billy Quarantillo, one of my favorite fighters. Bill Algeo has just got this controlled chaos way of fighting. Brandon Royval. Love watching Brandon Royval's fights. There are so many that I really like, but it's those guys that break their opponents. With Trevor Peak, one of my favorite fighters, because he just comes out there to scrap and you got to literally murder that man to get him out of there. So, and then some of the guys that you make money on obviously are you have a soft spot in in your heart for guys that have made you money in the past. But really the archetype of the fighter that I like is a guy that's durable, that goes forward, that forces a fight, that throws a ton of output, and that can mix in a little bit of everything: some clinch dirty boxing, some wrestling, some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and some good distance striking. I like those well-rounded fighters that bring a big gas tank, a ton of heart and durability, and that bring these all-action fights. Jay is saying, exactly fabulous. And thoughts on Ronin MMA? I don't know what Ronin MMA is, actually, so I don't know what to tell you on that. I don't even know what that is. We got, nah, bro, you don't look old and you don't act old, so you're not old. Logic checks out. There we go. Yes, freak. Here we go. He says, watching us from Scottsdale, Arizona. Drunken Boxing saying, with age comes wisdom. Well, for some, and that is true. With some, you just get to be a bigger dumbass. I mean, everybody's on a trajectory. We just try to do better every day if we can. Tuivasa is fighting on his birthday. I know fighters have after parties when they win. Is he fighting on his birthday? How did I miss that? Because that's so plus EV. 316.93. Damn. He is fighting on his birthday. Yeah, and Tuivasa, he's already got an after party lined up at some club, and he's going to have like 47 beers. Dude, that dude is going to party, win or lose. And Drunken Boxing has got it right with the Tuivasa. Thai parties after every fight, win or lose. Yeah, Fubu saying that. Almeida Blades was fixed 100%. What a weird-ass finish sequence. It just looked like, I'm not saying it was, but just the way, like, I don't know. It just looked so bizarre. It looked like Gilton forgot that he had trained MMA his whole life. And then I don't know. Is Megan Levy going to corner Joe Benavidez? She's kind of hot, mousy, but hot. Thoughts, Uncle Weezy? I agree with you that she's kind of hot, mousy, but hot. Yes. No, I think that Joe still thinks he's fooling all of us, He still thinks that, like, I'm getting away with this, man. A lot of these, you got a lot of people that are, screwing up men's sports and women's sports, by changing genders or whatever. Joe thinks he's getting away with it, and that's the crazy thing here, So I don't think Megan O'Leary's going to be there. I think Megan's going to be like back away, like off camera, because she's going to be rooting on her husband, hoping that he wins, against Chelsea Chandler on Saturday. And I think that they both think they're fooling everybody. But see, you got your Uncle Weezy here, man. I see through the bullshit. I see through it. So Hap saying, interesting, Weezy. Unconventional list. I get it, though. Hardcore cardio guys that break their opponents are mad fun to watch. Yeah, so it's like, it doesn't have to be like these top 5 guys. It's just these guys where it's like, oh, Billy Quarantillo fight. We're in for a treat. Win or lose, Billy's going to put on a show for us. So, yeah, man, those are definitely my favorite type of fighters. We got, let me see here. God damn it. My thing ain't working. What is happening here? All right. And Fubu saying, are you first gen? Who are your first gen favorite fighters? So, like, I remember the first time I saw John Jones, he just blew me away. I think John Jones was my first favorite fighter ever. Who are some of the guys? Oh, the Diaz brothers. Man, I loved watching the Diaz brothers. Nick Diaz, when he was over there in Bellator fighting Paul Daly. And then one of my favorite fights was Melvin Manhoff versus Robbie Lawler. So I loved watching Robbie Lawler back in the day. And Matt Hughes, dude. That Matt Hughes Carlos Newton fight was crazy. The first fight that I ever saw was UFC 5. It was Dan Severn versus Oleg Taktarov. And I remember Dan opened up Oleg's forehead with elbows, and he was bleeding all over the place. And me and my buddies were like, dude, what the fuck are we watching? Because dude, it was still like $50 even back then, man, to get a pay-per-view for the UFC. Like, we all kicked in money, and there were like 15 of us in a room watching this. And that was the fight that I remember, was Taktarov versus Severn. But yeah, I mean, like, I used to love watching Matt Hughes fight, and like I said, Robbie Lawler fight. Though there were so many great guys in the UFC back then, but the first guy that I remember watching where I was just like, holy shit, was John Jones. Drunken Boxing saying happy birthday to Tai Tuivasa, fighting on his birthday. And we got DFS by the numbers saying Gilton and his buddies have cashed big on him by decision against Lewis, and Blades KO2 last time out. Dude, they're on a yacht somewhere right now, Brady, living it up on their Uncle Weezy's money. You know, so the least that you could do, Gilton, is invite me along, you know, because I supported you this whole way. And that's the least you could do, man. But DFS by the numbers right on once again about that. We got Hap saying my favorite old gen fighters, Lawler, Jones, new gen fighters, Sandhagen, Jan. Those guys are all great. Drunken Boxing called that fight perfect. Second round KO for Blades. Nice call, man. Nice, because I'm not hating on Blades, man. He's a Chicago guy. I've bet on Curtis Blades so many times. I love Curtis Blades. I just thought that was a bad matchup for him, man. Yeah, I'll make a small hedge parlay with some soccer and boxing matches, and then have Levy as the last leg. Yeah, there you go, man. And then that way, now you're going to make some money, Bob. We got Drunken Boxing with the eyes. We got Hap saying, so glad Almeida got KO'd. All he does is grind on men, does no damage. It feels good watching him curl up and fail. And yeah, and he certainly did that. You must have really loved Saturday, man, because boy, did he curl up and fail. Just like my bets did. We got Bob said he also had Wadi at plus 142. He closed probably around minus 170 or minus 200. Yeah, man. That's that CLV trophy. And you guys ring a ding ding. My guy Go Flamingo saying up 18 of units of profit after $2.99. If Gilton Almeida didn't malfunction, I would have cashed 3 more parlays and been up close to 50 units. Damn it, Gilton. I mean, I would have had a massive day. For me, it was like because of my greasy 4-leg parlay and because of an underdog play that I had, and the 3 units total that I had on 1 unit on the money line and then 2 units on a parlay. Gilton losing was something like a 16 or a 17 unit swing for me between the 4-legger, between the underdog play, and between the tracked bets. So that was such a bummer, but you know, it is what it is, man. On to next week. Can't be mad at Gilton right now. We're going to learn from what we saw in that fight moving forward and hopefully make better bets on not just Almeida, but Blades going forward. 2024 is DraftKings that's first to open these lines and not bet online. Yeah, the money lines, but never the props, dude. Never the props. They never want to be first to market with any over-unders or props. Uncle Weezy, I named my cat after you, says Matt R. I love it, dude. That is kick-ass. Your cat, I hope, is named Uncle Weezy. That would be kick-ass. Bob saying the Atlantic City card is the first event this year that Bet Online opened first. Oh, really? Okay. DraftKings actually just dropped those fights as well. Very cool. Yeah, because DraftKings has been getting out there and opening money lines, which is super cool. I love to see some competition in the market, Bob. We have a lot of VHS of UFC 1. Yeah, we used to take it to different buddies' houses around the neighborhood and blow everyone's minds. I remember that, dude. You know, you'd have those. You could go to the video store and get like UFC 1 through 5 or something like that. When the Gracies still owned it, it was on DVD or on VHS. Man, that was awesome. And Matt saying, yeah, that's a hell of an honor. Do you have a goldfish you could name Go-Go? It says, consider it done, my friend. Bob loves the cat reference. Matt, thank you, sir. Hap saying, do you think Buckley is a good underdog against Luque? Yes, I do, and here's why. I'm worried about Vicente right now. That performance against Rafael dos Anjos, he's fighting different than when he fought his whole career. Vicente is another one of my favorite fighters because he was one of those guys who counted on his durability, would take one to give one, and would just wear you down, never fuck off, and then finish you late in fights. And after the who was the one who just beat him senseless? And he had the brain hemorrhage. Oh man, it was nasty, but you guys know what I'm talking about. He comes back against Rafael dos Anjos, and he's a wrestler now. I don't know, man. I don't know if Luque can win without being a little bit reckless and being able to depend on his durability. If I can't count on him being that Vicente Luque, I don't want to lay juice on him, especially against somebody that hits as hard as Buckley does. My wife's nickname is Flamingo, says Matt. The film I used to take my buddies to back in the day was Porky's. Yes, dude, Porky's, meatballs. My girlfriend loves Porky's. That was one of her favorites from back in the day, man. And Bob saying, I can't wait to lay the smackdown on that Joe Anderson Brito opener against Jack Shore. That is a rough matchup for Jack Shore, man, at 145. He should go back down to 135 if they're giving him Brito. Jeff Neal says Fubu. Yeah, there you go. I like Jeff Neal for sure. Buckley is a hard hitter. Oh, wait. So are you saying that Jeff Neal against Buckley? Oh, it was Jeff. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Jeff Neal is the one that beat his brains in. Yeah, that was, oh, God, man. Jeff Neal is, he hits so hard, so that was scary to watch. I think Buckley's a hard hitter, and because Luque has less durability now, he will be worried on the feet, and Buckley will shoot and hit him with hard shots. Yeah, man, I think so. Yeah, the bleeding on the brain is crazy, dude. It's so bad. Luque's left hook in the pocket was a thing of beauty. Absolutely, it was. All right, you guys, it's almost midnight here in Chicago, so I've got to bounce. It is time for me to get packed up and go to Florida. So thank you guys for tuning in. We got, Jeff Neal couldn't miss with the left hand against Luque. And how does Prime Jones versus Yuri go? That would be such a great one, man. I have no idea how that would go, but they would be so much fun to watch. I think Jones would probably have taken him down and easily beat him. Yeah. So, all right, old bitch. See you soon. Cheers, says all Jays. Hell yeah, man. Safe travels. Thanks, Weez. Peace out. Enjoy Florida. He's off. He's old. He's off to Florida. Let's go. I'm going to get old by the pool, have some drinks, have some good time. All right, you guys. Thank you for watching. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Please consider joining the Patreon. And I will try to do a greasy four-leg parlay from Florida on Friday for you guys. And good luck on the fights. And I will see you not just on the parlay on Friday, but on usual time, Stat Diggers, Pub Sports Radio, 6:15 Central Time on Sunday night for this 14-fight card coming up next Saturday, which is going to be headlined by Rose Namajunas and Amanda Hebas. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.